You are listening to the Menswear Mindset. This is a podcast done in collaboration with Austin Robertson from Gentleman's Avenue and myself, Louis Jeremita from Aspiring Gent. The goal of this podcast is to inspire men to dress better and to understand the role of clothing in their everyday life, as well as with our shared experience in consulting and tailoring, hopefully share some insights we have in the industry as we both grow as menswear retailers. Thank you guys for listening, and please enjoy the Menswear Mindset. Alrighty, welcome to another episode of the Menswear Mindset. I am your host, Louis, and we are here with the co-host, Austin. Austin, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, did you just say that you're the host and I'm the co-host? So you did a hierarchy that you're better than me? That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, so we'll edit that a little bit to where I don't even say co-host, I'll say guest, and it should be
guest.
more fitting.
Okay. So it's
my bad,
just
everybody
you.
Listening. I am a co-host, and Austin is a co-host.
Wow, could you say that in a more sassy manner?
I could, but we'll wait.
No, that's not a challenge. No, that's not a challenge. I was being sassy. I was returning your sass.
Oh, I thought you were calling me out, Austin.
No, because I know that you can return your sass as well as anybody else can.
Okay, well, we'll see how long this podcast actually lives for, because we're already at each other's throats.
Great. Fantastic.
How about you just tell the nice listeners what we're going to be talking about today, Austin?
I'd be glad to if you didn't ruin it in the very beginning. So, ladies and gentlemen, the kind listeners, unlike Lewis, you should be on the edge of your seats, because today we're going to be talking about how to shop.
Ooh.
Now, you know that we're specifically kind of more on the retail end of the spectrum, because, you know, Lewis, you're a tailor. So as a tailor, do you go on the sales floor and sell very often, or are you just specifically in the back?
So I've kind of adopted this very like mutant rule, because I'll be in the back most of the day now because we don't have many tailors, but then they'll have me come out for fittings and stuff. And at that point, that's where I kind of talk to people about different things, but I'm not just on the sales floor like the other people working with us and just waiting for people to come in. Every now and then when I get bored or we're caught up with work, I'll head out there and try and talk to some people. But mostly it's like in those brief interactions where I'm introduced as a tailor, and I try and either help confirm the sale that they're already on or kind of throw in my own little twists.
Modify or adjust it from there.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. So I think this is going to be a good subject for us to address, because I'd say that I'm going to overgeneralize here, but the everyday man, A, hates shopping, and B, doesn't know how to shop. He doesn't know how to do it properly. So, you know, what we're here for is to help give you tips and, you know, tricks on what to look for the next time you'll need to buy for some clothes. So, coming from the salesman aspect, well, I don't even want to use the word salesman, but just as the guy who's on the floor, who's
someone in the industry, industry insights.
Yes. So, as someone who's in the industry, personally, the first thing that I would start off saying is you got to get your menswear mindset right. Hashtag shameless plug. But you've got to get your mindset right before you go in, because it's going to benefit you more when you come in with an idea of what you want. So say you are a guest attending a wedding. You know, obviously the goal is never to outdress the happy couple, but you know, you want to show respect through your clothing, or if it's a job interview or whatever the case may be. Know your location first and foremost, like what type of event it is, and go on from there. Or if you're just adding to your wardrobe, like, hey, I need a pair of gray slacks. Well, do you want a pair of like light pearl gray slacks, or are you wanting a deep charcoal, almost black pair of slacks? You know, what are you most comfortable with? So coming in with an idea of what the specific need is, and then a properly trained professional should be able to lead you the proper ways.
Question. Let me interrupt right there.
Yes.
So for the individual who lives in a town who doesn't have the luxury of going to one of our shops with actual menswear professionals, how would one best prepare themselves? Because I have like a few ideas of like how to know what you want when you don't know how to dress.
Yeah.
But what would you say are some ways that you can figure out what you want or what you need for a certain event?
And we had touched on this in the previous episode. And if you're just finding this podcast, first of all, thank you for listening. But go check out the first episode and listen to that first because we want you to get an idea of who we're about. Okay, so another shameless plug out of the way. So in regards to that, I think social media is a great avenue and it's a great tool to use for your benefit because there's Pinterest, there's Instagram, there's Facebook. Heck, there's YouTube. For me, I mean, that's where I started. I started by watching the videos of Aaron Marino of Alpha M Image Consulting, or Alpha M as he's known as now, Antonio Centeno of Real Men, Real Style. And they would just start off talking about the basics, getting a navy suit, then a gray suit, and kind of seeing what you like, what you don't like, what you're gravitating towards, and what you're repulsed by. So I would say take that as your starter. You don't have to necessarily go to a men's clothing store. If you're closer to one, definitely go to a shop like that, or just go to a resale shop or not a pawn shop, but like a Goodwill or a secondhand store where you can get really good quality items for next to nothing and then take them to a tailor, have them altered specifically to your body type, and you're learning without breaking the bank. And a lot of that really too can come from finding someone. Like if you know someone personally, I would say ask them some advice and ask, specific questions instead of like what's in right now, what's fashionable for me. I don't even like that word, but what you should be asking is what works or looks best on me and going from there. You've got body types, you've got skin tones, you've got taste levels, you've got all different kinds of aspects that go into there. So when you talk to a professional or a friend who knows what they're doing, they'll help direct you and take this broad spectrum and narrow it down to clarify it up for you.
Yeah, and kind of going off of that, find a friend to help you. If anybody even just needs to message one of us, find somebody on Instagram that you follow. Like if anyone were to message me and be like, hey, I'm going to this event, and actually I have a friend this weekend, I'm going to be helping him pick out an outfit for this like housewarming party he's going to. Reach out to like someone online. Look for someone who doesn't have like a humongous following because it's hard. Chances are they're not going to always see your messages, but like one, reach out to us because we're the guys to talk to about this stuff, obviously. And the other thing though what's that?
I said we are the future.
We are the future. Another thing is something that I do all the time before I go to events. If it's a reoccurring event, look it up on Instagram and kind of see what pictures people are posting. And that way you get a really good idea like, hey, are people going all out for this kind of like banquet that my work holds every year? That's like an amazing way to be able to tell what you need, what you have. Kind of classifies as the formality of the event.
Absolutely. And to piggyback off your piggyback, when looking at events like that, you can ask the host. I mean, if you're going to a wedding or something like that, you can just, hey, is this black tie or is this semi-formal or is this extremely casual? Well, if it's business casual, what does that mean? That's something that we're going to tackle at a later date, dress codes and specifically what is business casual. But, you can ask a host. I mean, I think that's a great idea too, Lewis, of, look at past events and how they dressed. But something to remember too is that I think you should not, don't be concerned about being overdressed because, for example, if you show up to an event and you're wearing a suit and tie, but everyone's just in a shirt and a pair of trousers, you can take the jacket off and lose the tie, or just lose the tie, unbutton the first couple buttons of your shirt, and you're still casual and you're dressing, to the event. So you've got to find that balance of still staying true to who you are and your personal style, but also it's not necessarily pandering, but you want to be very respectful to the event. I mean, it's probably not the best idea to wear like a 3-piece chalk stripe suit to a first coffee date, because that's very, very strong. But again, like, this is really extreme, but if that's truly who you are, go for it and truly be who you are, but understand that there could be consequences that come from that, if that makes sense.
Exactly. So kind of just try and feel it out the best you can. And if you can't, look for someone who may know better, who can educate you on it. So first point is pretty good. Know what you want before you go in.
Mm-hmm.
What's point number 2, Austin?
I would say the next point is understanding. Well, this really should be the first, but when it comes to anything style related, it needs to come down to fit. Don't worry about, what fit is in style. If guys are wearing the loose baggy fit, or if they're doing a really skinny fit or whatever. What is most common right now is going to be the more trim fit, a trimmer body, slimmer lapel. The skinny fit with the really tiny skinny lapels, that's really gone to the wayside. People aren't wearing that anymore because it's not flattering for most body types. It's a very specific body type that can wear that, and it looks proportional and flattering to them. So you've got to understand your fit, because, for example, for me, I'm about 6'1", like right at 200 pounds. And so I'm about a 43 long. So the reason I wear a long over a regular is where the button stance is on my jacket. If it were too high, it makes things look off, because it's supposed to button at your natural waist.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I were wearing like an extra long, it's too low. It looks off, and it cuts me in half, and it's not balanced out properly. And I just realized my camera's off a little bit here. But really, it needs to come down to fit, and what fit flatters you the most based off your body type.
Yeah, and something that I do want to start while we're going through these points is, because when we started this, we want this to also be just like about the retail industry. So I think it'd be cool to, with each point, kind of also show it the flip side on how, as a retailer, you can provide this service to someone who wants to know how to shop. So,
Absolutely.
So understanding your fit, first and foremost, when you're going in as a consumer, it's going to help you if you need a quick decision or you're going somewhere that doesn't have a professional on staff. But also on the flip side, as the retailer, if you don't know how to take someone's measurements so that they can, like, in the future know what to buy from you, or even go somewhere else, like being okay to, even if I came into your store and I was like, hey, I want to know my measurements, you give me my measurements, and then I go to the store next door to you and use it to buy clothes. Like, you should be okay with that, because you're providing a service that's useful to the customer.
Yes. I mean, as a retailer, that does bruise a little bit, because, you're putting your time, and you're investing into this person and trying to make sure that you're adding value into their life, and that you're putting them into a garment that flatters them the best. And it really is kind of rude if you take that aspect, or if you take that outlook of, like, getting your measurements and then going somewhere else. It's understandable. No one really lost money in that situation, but you've potentially ruined a relationship opportunity to build with that person who, started the foundation of working with you. So, for example, with like a specialty store or a higher end clothing store, they should be keeping record of, what you've purchased, so you're not buying the same thing. You're not, duplicating anything. They should be, taking your measurements of what fits you properly. If, you prefer more of a tapered bottom or more of a full cut, they should be building that relationship with you and help guide you based off of that. And also that your wants and desires, because everyone's got a different style, everyone's got a different taste. And so they should be able to listen and respond accordingly to that, of giving you options of something that you'll like, or something that they know that you'll like, but you may not have thought of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They should be the one helping you get outside of your box. And also back to what we were talking about, being okay to like take that hit. The one thing that I always go back to when people do that, because I know some people at our store get like upset when people are like coming in, but when you think about it, they came into your store for a reason for those measurements. One, either they couldn't get them somewhere else, or you were the first name to pop to their mind. So obviously our store in general is not going to be able to clothe a man for everything he needs, because we don't sell very casual clothes. Like, we sell denims and t-shirts, but it's higher end. Like, there's obviously going to be a reason people go to other stores, but still having that service of you were the first one to think of, I think even though you didn't make a sale, is still valuable, because now you're in that person's head.
Yeah, that's a great point, because, there's some guys who go, I've got to get measured for a custom suit or something. I'm in my brother's wedding. He's got this. I just need my measurements. For me, I'm hesitant to do that because, yes, I can put a tape on you. But here's the reason I'm hesitant to do this, because there are some companies who have different measurement techniques.
Mm-hmm.
They measure a very specific way. Like, for example, on your point to point, some people measure off the arc of your shoulder, and then some people measure straight across. Well, if you measure off the arc of your shoulder, that's a longer measurement than just the straight across. Yep. And so, for example, if I don't know how they're wanting me to measure you, if I give you the incorrect garment, if I give you the incorrect measurements, you give it to that company, whatever, and they make you a garment that doesn't fit, I come across as the bad guy.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Because you look like you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, and I'm going, well, it's a different technique that they use, and so I'm trained off the techniques that I know and that I'm going off of.
That's a good point.
I give people the skin measurements. I'm like, hey, this is the skin measurements that works best for them. If it's a company that truly knows what they're doing, it should fit properly. So, but I mean, it's a great point of you making that effort, and it really takes maybe 2 or 3 minutes to put a tape measure on somebody. And if they came into your store, I mean, you've won. I mean, they made that effort to come into your store. And so you should do everything in your power to keep them there and not, overrun them with anything.
Lock the doors.
But, yes, you're not leaving now. But giving them such a great experience where they want to come back, because that's something that a lot of retailers and big box chain stores, that it's customer service that brings people in. It's customer service is not, hi, welcome in. What are you looking for today? Okay, well, let me know if you need help. So you would never believe what I was watching on Netflix the other day, and you completely cut out the opportunity to build with that client. And so what I've started doing is, I used to work at James Avery Artisan Jewelry. It's a handmade company that's based out of Kerrville, Texas. Fantastic company. Really enjoyed my time there. And so we were not based off commission, but I wanted to sell. Wanted to add value to people's lives. And so when they came in, I'd say, hey, we're glad you're here. What brings you in today? What are you looking for? And if they would say, oh, I'm just looking, I would dig a little deeper and ask the question, oh, so what are we looking for? Do you have an event coming up? Are you buying for somebody? And if they go, no, I'm just looking, because we were in a mall. And so a lot of people just came in and they wanted to kill a few seconds. And that totally makes sense. And so, okay, well, if you need me, I'll be right here, and give them their appropriate space. But by me asking that question, someone would say, well, my sister's birthday is coming up, and she really likes cats, and so I'm thinking about getting her a cat charm. Bam, I've locked onto something that I understand that she has a sister, and her sister likes cats, and her birthday is coming up, and this person wants to get something. So when they're asking questions, it's not we're just trying to probe. It's we're trying to find out what works best for you to be able to add value into your life, into your experience. Yes. And so now instead of how can I help you, or what are you looking to buy? That's too. It can come across as too strong. But what I started doing now is what brings you in today? Or if it's in Texas, you just start a conversation with them. Man, do you have any tips or tricks to make it through this heat? I tell you what, I've lived here my whole life, still don't know what I'm doing. And you're building a rapport with them. And it's not like sleazy, like, okay, well, you just wear lighter clothes. Okay, what are you trying to buy? You're making them feel comfortable with you. You want them to build that relationship and that trust to where, I've got an event coming up, or I've got this job interview and I'm really freaked out about it, or I'm defending my dissertation, and I want to look good to the board that I'm defending my dissertation to become a doctor. Whatever that may be, you want them to trust you.
Yeah. Building that trust is huge. Now moving also to the helping the customer to shop. Something that I've been thinking of that would be really cool to start doing as a service for people, and then you brought up when you were talking about your stores, but having a catalog of what you already own is huge,
Yep.
especially if you're someone who enjoys clothing. Like if this is your first time going out, obviously you own 0 suits. You own very few dress shirts. Not that hard. But there's so many people that come into our store that's like, I really like this orange tie, but I'm pretty sure I have one just like it. I'll come back some other time and I'll look at it. But one, if you're a retailer and you already have that list, you can be like, oh, you've never bought one. Obviously, they might have bought it online, all these other things, but that just helps you, one, be able to close a sale a little bit better. But also on the customer side, it makes you not have to make another trip to the store. So there's a lot of times, I mean, because I'm like so into this, I have a pretty good mental catalog of what I have. I don't really have a hard time, but when this isn't your everyday, your job, having even a folder on your phone of just snapshots on your camera on your phone of just what you have, the basic core, because you might know what you want when you're going into somewhere, but you're never going to be able to tell if something catches your eye or not. So
absolutely.
What are your thoughts on cataloging your clothing?
And that's something that we utilize as well, because we have some guys who are just clothes horses and they just buy all kinds of stuff, and so we don't want them to overbuy anything. We want them to be very we want to make it very streamlined. So, I've got a couple guys that I work with, and I'm constantly taking pictures of anything that they purchase. And sometimes I fall down on the job, but, I'll try to take pictures. And so anytime they come back, I can go back to that folder and like, okay, well, we've got this. You know what? That's a little too close with what we've purchased before. So I don't think we should get this unless we style it differently. But here's a good option. So that way they see and they feel a lot more comfortable, and, they feel like they didn't waste money or their time or anything.
Now, do you just keep that on your phone, or how do you catalog it?
We've got a system that we use. A lot of people use like Google Drive and stuff like that. So
because that's what I was thinking. Because I was like, I'd like to do that for people as like a service where you like go into like their wardrobe and like help them catalog it and like do like a whole style assessment. But I just was like, I figured Google Drive would be the easiest, but I didn't know if like you guys had something that was like, oh no, there's already an app that's perfect for that.
And there probably is, but Google Drive is probably pretty simple because it's easy to access, easy to work, and easy to manipulate.
Yeah, pretty easy. But okay, so not to take hold of your outline, but what's another way that people can shop more effectively?
Okay, yeah. And one thing as well is, be open just to trying something on, because a lot of times you might look at something and go, there's no way I could pull that off, or no way I would wear that. If you put it on, sometimes it's the fit, it's the feel, or even it's the look that you put it on, and it's different. It's different when it's on the mannequin, and it's different when it's on you. And for me, that helps. Like there's a guy that comes in and he's like, you know what, I'm a 44 jacket. Okay, so I put a 44 jacket on him, but then I've got this other jacket that's more of a trim fit, but if I size up to the 46, it's something that fits him a little better, where he's still getting that slim fit, but he's not sacrificing that comfort. Mm-hmm. So it's the simple act of putting something on him. And so, for example, we've got a full canvas, partially handmade garment, and then we've got like a fully machine-made garment. And then when you put it on, you can see how the shoulders, how they rest on your shoulders, and then you can compare that to a different garment fit. Maybe one has a lower armhole, maybe one has a slightly higher armhole. And they can feel the difference, And so one thing that I try to do is get them into a garment, so you can just feel more comfortable and you can experience it, because it's not, I want to put this on you just so you can say yes and buy it and move on. It's I want to put this on you. I want you to feel it. I want you to experience it. And one thing that I do is I joke around with them and going, we don't charge you for trying the garment on. It's okay. So let's just put this on. And so when you kind of joke about it, it makes them feel a little more relaxed, a little more comfortable and confident. And that comes down to the trust of working with that salesperson. Because if you're not having a good experience with somebody, you shouldn't work with them. Exactly. There are a lot of bad salespeople out there who are they have terrible people skills. But if it's truly a good person, just be open and receptive to what they're saying, because, they may suggest something that just doesn't work for you, or they may suggest something that you're going, I didn't think I'd love this as much as I do right now. So I think a lot of it goes down to trusting that person too.
Yeah, and I think that that kind of just boils down to, for the consumer side, is like, just have time when you go shopping. Don't go shopping when you're rushed. I mean, obviously, all this stuff can be taken all different ways, but like, I'm referring to if you are actually going for something that's different, like where you're actually trying to shop. Like if I know I need a white shirt, I'm going to run in, I'm going to grab it, and I got to get to an event. I don't have time. But when you're just leisurely shopping, make sure you have time, because one, you're allowing the salesperson to do their job, especially if you've never been there before. And I'm saying the word especially a lot. But if they don't know who you are, they can't help you right away until they kind of get to know you. And that's one thing that I've been learning as I've been on the sales floor more. And also just as I'm just like going through this style consultant journey that I'm trying to get down, is when I'm working with somebody, I can't just be like, hey, nice to meet you. You should be wearing this, 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 and this. It's like, who are you? What do you do? What are your interests? Are you very flamboyant? Are you kind of reserved? How can we use your clothing to get you out of the box? So giving that time, one, helps a well-trained salesperson do their job to the best of their ability, as well as it allows you to find things that you otherwise probably wouldn't have tried on.
And there's a way to ask those questions without flat out asking them. Because sometimes I'll suggest something that's totally over the top. If they're like a very conservative, I like my charcoal suits and I like my navy suits, and I don't get much brighter than that. Like, that's just the type of guy that they are.
Yeah.
And then I'll throw like a hot pink paisley tie at them. And they're going, oh, so that's just a little too crazy. I kind of do like that color. So you have maybe a red tie, or show me a purple one or something like that. And so now I've kind of broken them outside of their box by kind of going too far in the extreme and brought it back a little bit. But now I've got a wider scope on what they're open to. And so, that's why when I put something on them, I'm listening to their feedback. And I tell guys too, like, tell me what you're feeling. Are you comfortable? Do you not like this? And I'm basically letting them, not really sell to me, but I'm letting them answer the questions before I ask them. One thing I was going to say too is, you had talked about that time. Oh God, I totally lost it. Oh, it was going to be good too. So sorry. Should have written it down.
Don't you hate that? It's like I have like the key to the universe right here, and I lost it somewhere. It happens to me when I get out of the shower. It's like I had an amazing thought that was going to jumpstart my business, and now it's just all like the memes and TikToks I've been watching last night. So.
And side little bunny trail. There we go. Side little bunny hole. That sounds really bad. Anyway, don't you do some of your best thinking right before bed or in the shower?
I know why that is, though. It's
okay,
because you allow yourself to be bored. And I was listening to this thing about like streamlining your work, and when you actually allow yourself to be bored, you do your best work. And it's amazing. Like when you're in a shower, I mean, there's some psychos that are on their phone in the shower, but when you're just sitting in the shower in the water, like you have nothing to do but think. When you're going to bed, hopefully you're not looking at a phone or TV, and you have just time to think. Also, when you're in like a long car ride and you're not on the phone with somebody and you turn the radio off, just sitting there in complete silence is so much fun. And it's so hard for us nowadays because we're always like, check our phone, check this, call this person. If I'm not doing something, I'm not being productive. But really, and this is totally going off of the whole menswear mindset, but it is a mindset, I guess, just being okay with being bored and allowing yourself to think that you're actually being productive.
That's pretty cool.
Because imagine if you had shower thoughts throughout your entire day. You'd be like freaking Nostradamus. Yeah,
that's really cool. What podcast was that on?
It was actually on a YouTube channel. It's called The Future. It's it's a channel about actually graphic designing, and they talk about like graphic art, rebranding, marketing stuff. And the guy was talking how he went to this Adobe conference and they taught them how to like systemize and actually get things done. And the one thing was like, hey, when you're working on a project, turn off all your electronics, because electronics are usually what throws off. And then he was talking about the beauty of boredom. And I was like, that is so
That's
hard
really
for
cool.
me. I hate being bored.
True. But I mean, that makes sense of like you're clearing your mind to focus.
Yeah.
Huh. Cool. Okay, so here's another thing I wanted to bring up. And so, as a professional in the industry, I'm studying, client builds and something, I'm studying to fit you and make you feel comfortable. I'm studying, yes, the trends, but also, what's going on and keeping things and fresh. With all of that information, you as the consumer are the one who makes the final say, because nothing what I say, I mean, I may convince you, but I'm not forcing you to buy anything. You are the one who, has the control. You're the one who ultimately decides yes or no. All I can do is just put something in front of your face, and if you like it, go for it and put it on your back.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't, you shouldn't walk out, no matter how good the salesman is, because if you're buying something based on how good the salesman is, he has an added value to your life, and now you've wasted your time and money on something that is not going to benefit you. So still feel comfortable in your decisions, because there's a lot of times where I'll be talking to a client and say, where is your gut, like for if we're going through custom swatches and it comes down between two and they're going, man, these are both good. Well, one thing I say is, what's the one that you're hesitant on? You're going, I don't like that one. And they'll kind of go, maybe this one. Okay, let's get that one out. Because when you look at your wardrobe, you should look at something and go, I love this. I get to wear it. I'm excited about it. So, you can trust your gut. But like I said, be able to listen to the advice that you've been given, because we are professionals and we're very trained in this area.
Yeah. So, and I totally agree. And I think it's such a fine line for people to walk, because on one hand, you have that guy that comes in, like you said, that's super traditional every time. I want a button-down Oxford shirt, nothing different. Yep. I want a light blue every time. And it's like, you really do, if you have that tendency, to trust your salesperson. I mean, put them through the ringer, make sure you can trust them and they're not just pushing off old product to sell it, but make sure you actually build a relationship so you can trust them. But yeah, again, if you don't feel comfortable and confident in what you're wearing, you're never going to pull it out of your wardrobe. And I get people on that all the time when we're trying to sell them something, because one of the salespeople, and I'm not saying anything wrong about our salespeople, but they are a little bit more, probably more towards the sales side. Not saying they don't know what they're doing, but it's they're working off commission. So it's like, let's just try and sell you something I think is good. But what I really think a lot of the conversation needs to be is, hey, this is what I think is good, but do you feel confident in it? And if the answer is no, and I tell it to people all the time, they'll come in and they'll be like, they'll pull me out from the back and they'll be like, Lewis, what do you think about this shirt? And I know the salesperson really likes it. I really like it, but they're not vibing with it. So for me, it's like, don't buy that shirt, because what you're going to do is you're going to feel pressured. You're going to buy it. You're going to take it home, never wear it, and then feel resentful to us because we made you buy this $100 shirt that now you're never.
And more than likely, you're not going to come back. And so we've ruined that relationship. Oh, here's the thing I forgot earlier.
Okay, back to time.
Trust is very fragile. It takes years to build up and a moment to shatter. And so that's why as salesmen, I don't even want to say salesman, but being in the industry, what I am constantly working on is benefiting who's in front of me and giving them an experience where they're comfortable and confident, to work and build with me, because, I understand that your time is valuable and that your resources are precious, and that, you've only got one chance for a first impression. And so my goal is to, give you the absolute best that we can go for. Now, when I say the absolute best, it doesn't necessarily mean, you need to buy a $4,000 three-piece gourmet suit from us. I mean, as great as you would look in that, I mean, if your budget is $1,000 or $500. I mean, because $500 is still a lot of money for a lot of people. But when you put them in something that fits them properly and they understand it and you are truly adding value to them, they understand that, a good salesman isn't going to look for that one big sale. He's looking for those constant incremental sales because he's building with that person and you're building a more trust. So when they do maybe need like, hey, I need a whole wardrobe overhaul, they can trust you with that instead of like, I don't know who I can talk to about this.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a really good indicator for people who are going into stores, because from my point of view, when you look at it as if this was a podcast about how to be a good salesperson, we would be leading people down the wrong path, because this is not solid salespeople advice. But I do think that the advice is, and kind of what I took away from it is, if you are in a situation where the person is acting in the way we're describing, where they're trying to find different things that work for you, you actually have somebody who is a consultant rather than just a salesperson. Because a salesperson, it's a little bit better. You're not as blurred now.
Okay. Yeah. It was out of focus. And I'm like, bring it back in.
Yeah. I was like, there's like a few seconds into like the video, if you guys are watching it on there, where Austin just keeps putting his pen to the camera. Anyways, back onto my little tangent. Is you're not looking for a good salesperson. Yes, Austin is a salesperson, but for first and foremost, he's a consultant. He knows what he likes. He knows what he thinks you might like, and he's going to put you in it. And his goal is more about getting you into what you like than making a sale. So if you're looking to this podcast for being a good salesperson, sorry, but we're going to give you really bad advice.
Sorry, bro. But I think the word that you use is a really great word as the word consultant instead of salesman. Like I'm selling you something that's got that negative connotation associated with it. Mm-hmm. But as a consultant, they are consulting you. They are counseling you through this time, because that is their profession. And, like I said, with me, when I'm looking at a person, I can kind of mentally paint a picture of, I think this would look good on them. So I'll recommend that, or kind of see the steps that I need to build to get them to that point. Or I'll just, I feel I'm studied enough in my craft to look at somebody and say, this is going to flatter you the best. This pattern, this color, for your skin tone and body type, whatever. I want this to flatter you properly, because for example, not all striped suits are created equal. Mm-hmm. So with a wide chalk stripe, it could look pretty good on a, shorter trimmer guy, but a stripe that's a little closer looks a lot better and flattering on you than it would for a larger man. Because if you've got a guy with a big, broad shoulders and big chest, and he's wearing these fine little stripes, it can come across as too busy because there's so much going on. Yeah. So that's why when it's a stripe that's further apart, it's a lot more balanced to his body type. Exactly. To balances out his proportions well. So I'm not checking you out, but I'm looking at you up and down and going, okay, these are things that if you're a shorter, stockier guy, the simple pattern or color, like a darker color, is going to make you look a little trimmer and taller. Either a solid or maybe a stripe pattern that draws the eye up and down. Or if you're a really trim guy, you can do this or that. There's a lot of things that I'm thinking of, but I'm looking at it from the aspect of, how can I maximize everything that you have through the tool of clothing? Because keep in mind, I've said this from the beginning and I still say it right now. Clothing is a tool. It's a tool for communication. It's a tool for expression. And that's what it comes down to. And I'm here to educate you on how, one, to find your style, but two, how to wear clothes properly.
Exactly. And this is kind of going back, just kind of the whole boredom thing. Not saying I was bored at all. Don't get that impression. But I was just thinking, I wonder what the metric difference would be if people started using the word consultant over salesperson in clothing stores. You know how Chick-fil-A does the my pleasure, and there's certain words they use. I wonder because to me, when you use the word consultant, the initial response is an expert. Whereas when you think of salesperson, you're just automatically just think of just not even, it doesn't always have to be bad, but you're just thinking of a person who works at a store. So
Yeah.
like a person at a grocery store could be a salesperson. Person at your bank could be considered a sales associate. Somebody at like, it's just like the idea of what you get of somebody who works at a place. Whereas when you say a consultant, I don't know, I wonder how that would change people's mindsets.
I think that's a really great point because, you know, when you hear employee and sales associate, more than likely the duties and the actions are exactly the same. But when it's sales associate or associate or partner or something like that, it brings in that idea of community and, you know, because just employee, I mean, that's just a generic term. I mean, yes, we are employees to corporations or to businesses or whatever. Yes, we are an employee. But when you're a consultant or anything, I think that instantly kind of changes the idea a little bit more. For me, and I think this just comes in sales techniques. For me, I don't want to be pushy. I mean, I've got to eat. I've got to keep my lights on. You know, I've got to have running water. So, you know, I'm pushing for sales, but I'm not going to risk losing you, if that makes sense. So, I mean, for example, if, you know, any of the listeners, you know, I try to be very attentive to what works best for them. And okay, well, let's expand this. Here, I'm going to recommend this. I'm going to recommend this because if I don't recommend anything to you, one, you're not going to grow, and I'm not going to grow either.
Yeah.
And so that's just where it comes with balance and understanding and being humble enough to say, you know, hey, maybe I was a little too pushy here. And that's never my goal. I mean, I only want to add value in any of my relationships, whether that's professional or, you know, in a platonic setting.
And I think going to the this isn't the podcast for salespeople. I do think this is good advice, kind of what you just mentioned, for a person who's a salesperson, is building that relationship not based on the quick ROI of a sale.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, unless you're working at JCPenney's to pay for your medical degree, then yes, sell as many suits as quickly as you can so that you can become a doctor. But if you're working in any situation where you're in the field that you enjoy, focus 100% on the long-term like length of your customers, go deep into that relationship rather than spreading it wide to many people. And I think, and again, back to shopping, if you have a salesperson who is on you from when you walk in, but not in a sales pitchy way, that means you found a good salesperson.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, when you look
a consultant, I should say.
When you're dealing with a consultant compared to a clerk, there's a completely different experience because a clerk is the person that, you know, you've picked all your items. They've just said, hi, what are you looking for? I'm here if you need me. But rarely, I mean, more oftentimes than not, people didn't come up to, you know, for example, when I worked at JCPenney, you know, people didn't come up just randomly. For like I said, for the most part, I mean, sometimes they just want their space, and I want to respect that absolutely. But you know, I'm here for that. The majority of clerks are there; they just scan items and they're waiting to clock out. That's it. They're putting the items back on the shelf. They're scanning the items to put in a bag for you to take home, and then they're ready to check out. Mm-hmm. That person is not trying to focus and understand what the quality of the garments is, where they're made, you know, how it addresses your body type better. They're ready to leave and they're ready to go home. And unfortunately, a lot of these big box stores, and even at, you know, like what if it's a JCPenney or a Menswear house. I mean, I'm not saying there's not good salesmen there. There are great salespeople there.
Oh, for sure.
But for the majority, they're not good ones. And, you know, to your point, like you said, if you've got someone who's hovering from afar, but kind of listening, if, like for me, when someone just makes a comment about something like, oh, this is kind of cool, I'll walk up like, hey, you know, so what's sticking out to you? I saw this, or like I just start talking about it, or try to get something that comes out from them, because I'm trying to build the early parts of that relationship. So you're beginning to trust me, and I can direct you off of your needs, because it works back and forth. It's not, you know, I'm just putting something in front of your face for you to buy it. You know, that's not it. It's that relationship. And it comes down to that customer service. It's the mindset that a lot of these places don't truly know what a good customer service and customer experience
Yeah.
is.
And that's the huge advantage for the smaller businesses right now, is because places like Amazon has great customer service. Small places should have good customer service, and you should be training your employees on the items that they're selling. And then those big box stores are just the people that either few people who know and the other people that just give you bad experiences.
When any of the reps, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, good.
I was going to say anytime like a rep or, some kind of, or for any of our vendors that come in, I'm asking them 20, 30 questions. Like, hey, where is this made? Where's this, what mill does this come from? Is there handwork that goes into the collar, or is it fully machine made? What about this? What about that? Tell me about this fabric. How does it drape? What about this? What about that? The reason I'm asking all of those questions is I want to know more than the customer would ask for, the client would ask for. Because when they come in with whatever question that they have, I want to be able to answer that so that they feel more comfortable and confident with their purchase, that it's not going to be something like, oh, well, it's 100% cotton, so it's going to breathe.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what about...
You want to be the smartest guy in the room without acting like you're the smartest guy in the room.
Oh, yeah. Like if it comes up, if you just look at it and you're like, I like that pattern, it feels soft. Cool. I didn't have to go into a long monologue about anything. But if you're going, is this, are the buttons stacked, or are they flat? Is it a handmade, is it Melanie's buttonhole, or is it just a plain buttonhole, or, is it full canvas, half canvas, or is it fused? What about this? What about that? Where is it made? What's the fit? I'm learning all of those details. I try to study so much. I study the questions that no one would ever ask.
Like what?
Because I want to
put you on the spot.
For example, I don't know, like what's the benefit between getting a suit that's made from China over in Italy?
Okay, what do you think the difference is?
There's a lot of bad product that comes out of China. But there are some good things that come out of China for a really great value, and it's a great product. I think Italy has kind of been a trend word for the last, I don't want to say 20 years, since, Giorgio Armani came out with, the Italian suits, and they were great quality, and people are like, oh, I need an Italian suit. Well, what does that mean? There's different types of Italian suits. There's structured Italian suits, and there's trendy, trim Italian suits. There's all different kinds of stuff there. So, what's the difference there? Getting something a little more specific, oh, I just had it and I lost it.
I need to go hop in the shower.
That sounds really weird. But based off our previous conversation. Oh, yeah. I'll just
no, Austin, I think you need to jump in the shower.
Stop.
That does sound really bad.
I feel uncomfortable you saying that. I think next week what I'll do is I'll actually just record from. I'll just be standing in the shower and just holding my phone like this.
We'll both do it. I'll run a bath and I'll be like, since we think best in here.
You got like bubbles up to your neck and you're holding a glass of wine. Welcome to the Menswear mindset. Okay, I'm grossed out by Jen.
Well, the great thing is though, on the podcast, only you would see it. So like if you're just listening to it, no one would know I'm in a bathtub.
No one would know.
So I say the next one we skip the entire YouTube section and just do straight bathtub talk.
I would probably just be next to the sink, have some water in there, and just periodically just flick my fingers so it just sounds like it.
Like, what is he doing? I would and you don't have to worry about it being dirty because you're in a bathtub.
How do we segue out of this without it sounding odd?
So I have a question for you, Austin.
I've got an answer for you.
So another thing that I thought was really important, but I think is also a fine balance, which seems to be the theme, is there's such a fine balance between, like as a salesperson, but on the consumer side, when it comes to buying quality over quantity, you hear it all the time. People are like, purchase the more expensive stuff. It'll last you longer and is actually cheaper because you spend more, but you keep it longer. Do you think that there's any exceptions to that? Or do you think it should always be when you buy something, it's of the utmost quality that you can afford?
buy the best that you can afford. And it also comes down to where your value proposition is, because, I've had clients who really didn't have that much money, but they wanted a good handmade, suit. And I've had guys who they could buy anything that they wanted, and they're like, $500 for a suit that I'm only going to wear once? No, I'm not paying for that. I don't want that. So that's really where it comes down to your value. Of sometimes, that's the price. That's what it costs. I always think that you should buy something that lasts, because you end up spending less over time because it lasts longer. So if you're investing on the front end, it's going to pay off later down the line. If you're buying I don't know, say for example, you buy a $200 suit from H&M.
Yeah.
They're probably a lot cheaper than that, but that maybe lasts 2 years. So you spend $100 a year.
But it only looks good in the first one.
Yes. And you spend $100 a year. But if you spend $1,000 on a suit and you take good care of it and it lasts 20 years, that's like what, $50 a year? My math is probably really terrible there. Oh yeah, that's $50 a year.
That's not bad.
So, that's just a very basic example. And this is one thing I wanted to say, but it kind of goes along with your question. So, I want to know the difference between, because I talk about handmade a lot. I'm a huge sucker for handmade details. The reason is I like knowing that the craftsman took the time to sit there and stitch a buttonhole, or, attach the collar, or put the sleeve on. What are the benefits between a handmade garment versus a machine-made garment? Well, a machine-made garment, the machine is going to make the stitch sometimes stronger. That's why, like on long seams of pants, and even in handmade suits, the long seams on the pants, like there's really no need for it to be handmade.
Yeah.
Because that'll be stronger. And there are some bespoke houses. I believe Rubinacci out of Italy, like they don't do any machines. I think their long seams on their trousers are done by hand. But the majority, from what I've been told, they are done by machine, which just makes it a little stronger. I met with some reps from Turnbull and Nasser shirts. Those shirts are fantastic. I believe they're hand done. It's not fully handmade, but it's always hand guided. So like the long seams on a shirt from like right here, that's attached by machine with the armhole, instead of just putting it on and just doing that. The tailor is sitting there and stitching it by hand. So if you don't really care about that, it doesn't really matter. So like, get a fully machine-made suit. There's nothing wrong, and there's no there's no shame in that aspect.
Yeah.
Since I'm a geek and a nerd about those little details, I like knowing that there's handmade aspects into it. With quality, like I think it just comes back, buy something that lasts, because everything, I'm generalizing, the majority of things now are so disposable, and, specifically for fast fashion, it's very toxic. It doesn't last, and those clothes end up in a landfill somewhere, or, in the dyes get into our oceans and, poison drinking waters and different things like that.
One plastic straws.
Yes. One thing I would recommend any of our listeners to watch, and again, this is not sponsored. This is just as a consumer of clothing, it helps you shop better. Watching True Cost, and it talks about the dangers and just how horrible fast fashion is, and how garments are made in sweatshops, and what that means economically, and then health-wise. It's not just the fashion industry. There's so much more that goes into it, and it changed the way that I viewed buying clothes. The biggest thing that stuck out to me is this small little excerpt of, there was a village who had a sweatshop, and they had just terrible working conditions, and they rioted, and they're like, we won't do this. We are not going to work in these conditions. The authorities came out and beat these people to a pulp. And they're like, get back to work, keep making those clothes. Because a lot of these, and I'm going to pause right there. A lot of these companies, and they actually talk between like Nike and Adidas, there's like this sweatshop, and it was like a t-shirt. And he goes, Nike shirt is made for $5, and Adidas' shirt was made for $6, or less than that. Like, Nike shirt is $2, Adidas shirt is $3. Well, Adidas finds out that Nike's is being made for $2, and they're like, why are you making theirs for $2 and ours $3? Make ours for $2. So now that sweatshop, who is barely making any money in the first place, now is making less money from these multi-billion-dollar corporations who are very, very concerned about their margins, and they're not focused on those
what they're doing in those countries.
Yes, and I do want to state and claim, I believe he had actually mentioned between Nike and Adidas. That's the only reason I brought that up. And it's very possible that Nike and Adidas no longer make it in sweatshops, or maybe they still do. I don't know.
Yeah, not calling out any brands, but still that happens with brands.
Zara, I believe Zara, H&M.
H&M is getting better from what I've heard. Not just because I'm wearing one of their shirts right now, but
Zara is by far the worst.
Really?
Multiple times these people were doing the documentary. They tried to meet up with some of these CEOs or whatever, and they always failed to comment. They would not comment on anything. They wouldn't talk about it. They wouldn't address it. And for me, I mean, that just kind of goes to show the corporate greed. I mean, if you're making things ethically and you're making billions of dollars, who the frick cares? But if people are, putting a pesticide on their crop for a cotton, that's not right. If your village is getting beaten to a pulp because you're going, I'm not going to work in this condition where I'm going to die, where this, sweatshop is going to collapse on me. I mean, there's a video of this, I believe it's a man. He's brutal and beaten and battered, and he's got blood all over his face because he was just beaten so severely. Is a $5 t-shirt worth that much?
Yeah.
No. Pay more, one, for quality, but two, making sure that it's sourced ethically. And that, and I talk very extreme in this situation because I'm very passionate about it. For me, I don't want to know that, this was made in child labor. I want to make sure that no one died just so I could have a good deal. That is not worth it to me. I'll spend more up front and something that's A, going to last, and B, like I said, it's ethically made. It's more. Garments are not worth more than people.
Agreed. And so that pretty much answers the question. If you buy something that's in a sweatshop, you are a terrible human being.
I
love the passion. I love the passion, though. I will say, you go off, but it's a good going off. I will say, though, despite all of that, I do think there is some times to capitalize on fast fashion. So, like, in my case, this polo itself, I bought it at H&M for, like, dirt cheap, but it was for, like, one picture I needed. And, I mean, I'll wear it a few more times until it starts falling apart. But personally, in my perspective, I think, yes, buy the highest quality you can afford on items that will last. So this polo, in 5 years, I'm probably not going to wear. I'm not going to want to wear it because I'm on to a new style. So, to me, I think you should find the companies that are doing it the most ethically. Like, I know H&M now does like recycling clothing. If you send them stuff, they'll recycle it and actually give you a percentage off. So find the ones that are doing the best at it, but don't be afraid to go with something cheaper, whether it be like a cheap pocket square because you don't need an expensive one, or maybe like a cheap pair of socks because you just want it to match something. In my opinion, and I think it might also be from where we're both at, is I'm still doing a lot of experimenting with what I want to wear. So for me, I don't want to buy a double-breasted suit that like is really bold and then be like, I don't really like it, and have like $1,000 sunk into it.
Well, when that comes into play, like if you still like H&M, buy it secondhand because you are not contributing to the active, to the active process of new clothes being made. So buying it secondhand, eBay, Amazon, yard sale, thrift store, Goodwill, I mean, whatever that is, buy it secondhand. There's no shame in that. I mean, that's how I got started, getting into nicer clothes, because you can still get like a really amazing quality garment, for next to nothing, when you're just starting out. For me, I mean, I would disagree with the point of, buying at fast fashion, because even though, you said, you are experimenting, which totally understand. But if you're just buying it and you're like, I know I'm not going to wear this. For me, I wouldn't buy that in the first place because I'm going, can I see myself wearing this in 5 years, 10 years? If I can answer yes to those questions, then that's when I move forward with it. But if I'm initially going, maybe in like a year or two, I think I'm going to be done with it. It doesn't need to be in my closet because all you're doing is buying future clutter.
That's a good point. And especially for the person who's not doing it as a profession, they're going to let that just sit there forever and ever. And even me,
Absolutely.
someone who goes through their wardrobe pretty constantly, like I have a shirt, I'm looking at it right now, that I probably haven't worn for 2 years because the sleeves are too short, but I'm like afraid just to throw it away. Because I'm like, I don't really want to have to buy another one if I want it. But there's a few pieces in there I should throw away. So if you're someone who doesn't really care about clothing, yes, I would agree 100%. Only buy it if you know you're going to wear it over and over and over again. Because for me, my problem is I start running out of content because I'm wearing the same shirts, the same suits, the same shoes over and over again. So I'm like, okay, how can I interchange some things that are popular now, but I don't per se want to? And I definitely capitalize on fast fashion in that regard. But for just the consumer, focus on what you're going to have long term.
Absolutely. And, you know, like I said, for me, I mean, and this is me, this is my stance, and this is what I believe in. I'm not going to ostracize somebody who believes otherwise, but, you know, I don't believe in purchasing something that, you know, is just trendy. It doesn't matter if it's trendy, someone's wearing it. If you're not, you don't need to put it in your wardrobe.
Mm-hmm.
And what I think periodically helps is going and purging your wardrobe, you know, every 6 months or once a year. For me, I probably do it maybe once every 3 months, like once a quarter, once every 4 months or something like that, because it helps me, like I can see what's staying inconsistent, or if I'm looking at something going, I always see it, I like it, but I just don't wear it, then it doesn't need to be in your wardrobe.
Exactly. Now we are crossing the over an hour mark. So in recap, know what you're doing, understand your fit, have some kind of catalog of what you're wearing, get outside the box, make sure you have plenty of time before you go shopping, trust a salesperson, but also don't buy anything you wouldn't feel comfortable in, quality over quantity, and maybe even quality and quantity.
That's something I live by because I just like a lot of clothes. I don't have a lot of other vices outside of cigars, but that's another conversation. But
we'll have one.
If you're buying good quality and you wear it and you use it, that's totally fine because you're utilizing it.
Exactly. Any closing remarks from Austin?
I'd say my big closing remarks would be, you know, don't be afraid, because a lot of guys, which is odd, are just very scared. You know, they don't want to try to dress any differently. They don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to stand out. Like I said, you know, we live in a culture where it's just very odd to dress well. So don't be afraid to stand out, because people are going to stare. Make it worth their while. Don't dress specifically for them, but don't be scared. Step out. If you find something that you're like, I really didn't like that, I'm never going to wear it again, you learned more about yourself in that situation than not trying anything.
Exactly.
You just stayed in the same stagnant cycle.
Exactly. I think this quote is, the only failure is the failure not to try. And I mean,
Absolutely.
If you're not trying it, you don't know if you're going to like it or not. But great points, Austin. I would say, don't be afraid to like to shop. I think that's a self-conscious thing that a lot of men have, where they'll feel like too feminine, or it's not the manly thing to do to like enjoy shopping. But be okay with like going out there and like, hey, I'm like totally loving how this looks on me, and like enjoying the process. And then also on the flip side, retailers really make it an experience for people. Don't just go through the gamut of, hey, what do you want? Even though you may know what you're doing and you want the best things for them, entertain the shopper. Like,
it should be one step down from fanfare and a red carpet.
Exactly. Like, I want, when people come in, and I know I'm not the best at this because I'm super shy, like when I first meet people, but like, enjoy it and don't be afraid to enjoy the shop. And I think that's like my biggest takeaway from this whole thing. But I want to thank everyone who's watching and listening to this podcast.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you.
Now, before we sign off, Lewis, how can people follow you? How can people find you? And if they have any questions, how can they reach out to you?
It's very hard to find me. I'm an elusive, stylish man.
No, you're not. You're lying.
No, actually, I'm pretty much everywhere. Aspiring Gent on literally every social media except for Twitter. I'm Louis Jaramita because it was really annoying to manage 2 Twitters. But pretty much everything, either look Louis Jaramita or Aspiring Gent. Austin, how about you? Thanks for allowing me to slam dunk that one.
So I've got a Facebook page and a YouTube page. It's just at Gentleman's Avenue. But I'm mainly on Instagram, so it's just going to be at Gentleman's Avenue. Find me on there. If you have any questions, just send me a message. I try to respond as quick as possible. I'm constantly posting. I've started vlogging more, so if there's anything that you specifically want to see, let me know.
Yeah,
I talk about it. If there's anything that you want us to tackle, and specifically when it comes into the menswear realm, when it comes to retail or anything like that, let us know. Because we want to change your mindset when it comes to menswear.
Exactly.
Thank you for listening to our mindset. See what I did there? That was almost kind of cool.
That was like, I feel like you had your outline written out, but really the paper just said that line at the end, and everything else you just
these are my notes. Very few notes. So I just came up with, because gosh darn it, I'm just kind of clever at times.
But hey, we do appreciate everybody listening to this podcast. So please share, subscribe, comment, do whatever you have to, because we enjoy doing this. And
tell your grandma about it.
Yes, tell your grandma about it. Grandmothers need to dress well too. That's another thing we should talk about. You're never too old to give a darn about what you're wearing. Never too old. Until next time, Lewis and Austin out.
Of the menswear mindset. There you go.
Menswear mindset.